here to break all the taboos, guys.
How did you convince your parents?
My mother, she has always been into fitness. She really helped me in my journey. And agar Lata Mangeshkar would have become a cricketer, or if Sachin Tendulkar would have become a singer, they wouldn't have been able to make a mark in where they stand. Sometimes inversions in a yoga practice, such as doing a headstand or a handstand or shoulder stands, a lot of people are not able to do that. In case of aerial arts, it's not just fitness. An ambition to reach a certain level of artistry, a certain level of expression, a certain level of movement. Whereas in case of yoga, it's more about grounding yourself, stabilizing yourself. Pole dance, it's always been a taboo. It's been an extremely major one. Naturally, it has been performed for seductive reasons as well. People wear small clothes while doing pole dance. Women in day-to-day lives, I believe, they are objectified a lot for the smallest bits of things. For example, किसी dinner के लिए जाते हैं हम family के साथ, इतनी मोटी हो गई है, इतनी पतली हो गई है. That is a form of greeting women as well. Food is a form of entertainment. It's not just that you need food to live. It's not just that anymore. It's entertainment now.
You feel sympathetic for yourself, you cannot work.
So stop the sympathy. Start working on yourself if that's something you want it to be addressed. Okay, and start actively working on it.
For menstrual cycle for women, like, how does yoga help pre and post? Like I have severe lower back pain and bloating and all of that. And how does yoga help with that?
So I think yoga can help in muscle growth, which generally people think only gym can do it, or only weightlifting can do it.
Your go-to meal before a workout?
Sattu. Sattu powder. I have
That's
that.
very good for digestion.
Yeah. Very nice. I love the texture. So I'm probably going to replace the laddus made at home with this.
Oh, great.
Hi guys, welcome to another great podcast episode with Healthy Naris. We're so excited to share that we have got 10,000 views, our very first, and we've crossed 100 subscribers. So yay for small wins.
Yes.
And to take this journey forward, I'm Adla.
I'm Sonal, and today we have a very special guest with us. She's a blend and a powerhouse of artistry, grace and strength. Welcome Niyoshi Marfatia. She is a certified yoga and aerial arts teacher and a fitness model. So, we're thrilled to announce Niyoshi on our third podcast and, celebrating this win with us. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much, Adler and Sonal, for having me today. It's been a pleasure to be here. And this is my first time, so I'm extremely excited and slightly nervous to be today.
No worries, be at ease. So, we wanted to start with your beginning, your journey. How did you start the yoga journey with aerial arts, which is, not very common nowadays. And, what strived to follow that passion along the way, sir?
Okay, so my journey started typically, so I'm 21 right now, and my journey started when I was, I think, 6 or 7 years old, not with yoga, but with very different fitness forms. So initially, my journey started with skating, and then I moved towards gymnastics. Then I explored athletics for a very, very long time. And then I started professionally pursuing basketball when I was in the 9th grade. And I played state level for 2 years when I was in the 9th and the 10th. And I was lagging in terms of cross fitness because I personally felt that my strength levels and my flexibility levels were comparatively limited compared to what it should have been. So then I decided to explore different artistic forms, which is going to help me complement and grow my basketball practice. So then I explored yoga and strength training side by side. And the first session of yoga which I walked into, it was like a complete game changer for me. It's like, I belong here, that kind of a feeling that this is something which I have always looked for in my fitness, and this is never going to be something which I'm ever going to leave. So it stuck by me, and my teachers have been extremely encouraging and motivating. I was just 14 years old when this started, and my teachers really helped me grow, and they helped me, and they made a path for me which I could follow to give me just like an initial head start of how to go about with it, because yoga naturally it wasn't one of the mainstream things to pursue in terms of, especially if your friends, all the people around you, मैं डॉक्टर बनने वाला हूँ, मैं इंजीनियर बनने वाला हूँ. It's never going to come that मैं बड़े होकर योगा टीचर या aerial instructor बनने वाला हूँ. You're never going to see that when you are in the 9th or in the 10th grade. So even I initially I didn't have any confidence. I just joined the rat race. Commerce ले लेते हैं, economics कर लेते हैं, फिर मर के थोड़े marks भी लेकर आएंगे, graduation हो जाएगा और फिर अच्छा job लेके फिर बाद में settle होंगे. Just the idealistic thinking of what normal Indian families have and what the upbringing has been. And then the lockdown came, guys. Then the lockdown came. I'm sure this is the story for most of us.
Yeah, a game changer. Yeah.
A complete game changer, I'm sure. So that time I got that 1 year in my house, that time of self-reflection and to realize, and that was my 12th grade back then, where I was actively studying for my board exams, which obviously got cancelled, and I was actively studying, and then I realized that, is this something where I can picture myself 10 years down the line or even 5 years down the line? I was like, no, I'm not going to be happy doing what I'm doing. And honestly, the best part was I've always been an average student. If I was a topper, then I would have never been able to take the decision of getting into and pursuing my passion.
That was nice.
Exactly. Yeah. It was a good one for me. So I was always an average student. So I was like, ठीक है, नहीं भी करेंगे ना, तो भी करके भी मैं कुछ इतना उखाड़ने तो वाली थी नहीं. तो फिर then I was like, might as well do something which I'm actually good at and where I think I belong. So then I decided to, and then as soon as the lockdown period got over and the first teachers training was announced after the longest break in a shala in Mysore, I went for my 200 hours teachers training where I was the youngest. I was just 17 years old and I celebrated my 18th birthday over there.
Wow.
Over there, all the people, I loved how welcoming and supportive the entire yoga community was and how non-competitive everybody was with each other. And that's very unlike what I saw in other fields, that's very unlike that. Over here, everyone was wishing well for each other and everyone was helping each other grow. So, overall, that has been a very welcoming experience for me, which pursued me to get deeper into this practice. And also my teachers have been really supportive, really kind, really helpful, and so that really helped me pursue my yoga career. And then after that, what happened, I explored yoga and I got deeper into the practice, and I always had a head start in terms of my asana practice because I always I was also a dancer for some time, not a good dancer definitely, but I was a dancer for some time, and that helped me build my flexibility, and that's why I got a little bit of a head start in my asana practice in yoga. So then I decided to, ever since I was a child, I've kept exploring different fitness forms. So then I was like, why am I, just because I'm pursuing yoga as my profession, that doesn't mean I can't pursue other fitness forms as well, right? So then I dived into aerial arts. So aerial arts is something which I came across when I was in the 6th, or I think in the 5th or the 6th grade, where I just saw a performance, okay? Somebody doing a performance, and I was like extremely fascinated by the whole thing. I was like, ये मेरे से तो कभी भी नहीं होगा. मतलब it was always something
Same with me.
ये मेरे से कभी नहीं होगा. But that plant was always there in my mind, and the seed kind of grew from there.
Oh, nice.
And then after my yoga practice grew, I kind of realized, okay, chalo, let's dive into the world of aerial arts also. Let's just explore. Let's see where this takes me. I won't have any ambitions in terms of, yes, I want to get into this professionally. I want to start teaching. I want to start performing. I want to start modeling. No, that wasn't the idea. It was just like explore kar leta hai, and then let's see where this takes me afterwards. So then I got into aerial arts, and the first session was extremely, so in yoga what had happened, I was so used to listening to compliments that wow, you're so flexible, and just in case of the asana practice, guys, I had barely dived into the world of meditation, pranayamas, barely. That was extremely minimal. Even philosophy, it was very weak because I was just like 16, 17, so then in case of my asana practice, I was very used to people getting amazed by how well she's doing, and in case of aerial, I was like zero, starting from base level. So keeping aside that thought process of constantly just listening to compliments, that even in basketball, I played state level, so people were very used to complimenting me, being amazed by the things which I do. And then aerial was something which helped me ground myself compared to anything else. It taught me how to stay grounded, and it's okay to start from level 1, and it's okay to be patient and to grow with time. It's okay to be human sometimes. It taught me that. So then that helped me stick by with aerial, and I took my own sweet time. I took 3 years before I started teaching aerial arts, and I pretty much balanced it along with my yoga practice, along with, and in fact strength training is something which I very recently added to my fitness regime. So I tried to create a good balance between all the disciplines, and and then it just went by from there.
That's very
Oh,
inspiring.
that's a lot to unload. I would go back a bit and ask you, as Indians, as you said, yoga is not something everybody aspires to. It's not a career graph because people don't see avenues to make money, right?
Yeah.
How did you convince your parents?
Convince my parents. Wow. The best part is my mother, she has always been into fitness, and she has quite, regularly been a part of the whole gym and group class environment, and she used to really look up to her teachers. So she always knew that this is a very dynamic industry to be in, and she always had a lot of respect and regard for the industry because she's been a student there. So she has always been extremely supportive towards the whole idea, which has honestly made the journey a lot smoother than what it would have been. Because most parents, Indian parents, kya hota hai ki because they themselves haven't explored the field, because it hasn't been introduced to them, तो फिर उन लोगों को पता नहीं है that what avenues can open in this path as well, because it's not one of the most mainstream ideas to get into. But in case of my mother, she's always had a very balanced approach towards her life, and she's been very open to learning and seeking in new things, which is something which even I look up to, which even I have always been exposed to. So because of which, and she's always had a good business acumen as well. So even though this was a very new line for both of us, she really helped me in my journey, and she's really helped me gain the confidence which I have today, and and during my growing years, I had a lot of stage fright. I could never put myself up there on stage.
We would never know looking at you and hearing
Seriously.
It's like
no one can second guess that you have stage fright.
I had my stage fright at least till I was in like the 12th grade, and now all I do is public speaking. That is all about it. Even in case of teaching, it's all about the accuracy in talking. It's all about focusing on the tiniest, the precision, precision. So it's all about that. So so I think a big credit for this would go
Mother
to
was best.
for her to support me and giving me the confidence that just follow your heart and I'm with you, that kind of an approach.
I know you're very young, but what advice would you give to Indian parents when their kid comes up to them and says, Mom, I don't want to do the traditional method of schooling or whatever, and I want to do maybe I want to become an aerial artist like you, or I want to become a bungee jumper professionally, or I want to teach art or painting or drawing. What advice would you give them?
To parents, I would say that now that I'm a parent, I'm very small.
As I said, you're kind of small.
So just as your child, from that perspective, I would say is कि मुझे वही करने दो जो मुझे करना है, क्योंकि अगर मैं कुछ और करूंगी तो फिर मैं उसमें अच्छी भी नहीं रहूंगी, कोई मुझे याद भी नहीं रख पाएगा. It's as good as that dialogue. I don't remember which movie was this, and Three Idiots. अगर लता मंगेशकर would have become a cricketer, or if Sachin Tendulkar would have become a singer, so फिर they wouldn't have been able to make a mark on where they stand. And as a parent, do you want your child to live a life which you idealized for them, or a life which they idealized for themselves? Just question yourself that. What would make you happier as a parent? Maybe they can widen their thought process in that sense, then maybe it would be best for everyone that way.
In future.
So much of clarity of thought, and you're great at public speaking.
So much.
But what challenges did you face? And do you think like the traditional yoga and the aerial arts complement each other? Like why aerial? Like why something different you tried?
So they are extremely complementing as forms. I mean, I know how much my yoga practice has grown after including aerial arts in my fitness regime, and of course my profession as well. One of the things in which I observe in aerial arts is that sometimes inversions in a yoga practice, such as doing a headstand or a handstand or shoulder stands, a lot of people are not able to do that. And in case of aerial arts, what happens is that because you have a hammock suspended, you have something to support your body. You have something on which you can lean on and do all the inversions which can be done with yoga. So in case of yoga, you require a lot more strength to be able to perform that, and in case of aerial arts, you just require some courage and guts to let's do it.
A lot of courage.
Creates lesser stress on the joints in case of aerial arts if you do, for example, a headstand or something, because you have an apparatus suspended. And and in case of yoga, from what I have noticed in case of the asana practice, we develop very little pull strength. For example, pulling the weight of my body and lifting it up, which is there in aerial arts and it is kind of missing in yoga. In yoga, we are mainly learning how to push your body weight, like, pushing against the ground or pushing towards the ground. So the pull and push, I think that is a factor it creates a good balance. And in case of aerial arts, also one more thing, because it is a form of artistic expression and it's also a performing arts form, the ideology is not just for example, it's not just fitness, it's also like an ambition to reach a certain level of artistry, a certain level of expression, a certain level of movement. Whereas in case of yoga, it's more about grounding yourself, stabilizing yourself, constantly staying connected to your breath. There's comparatively less thrill also in yoga, and it's more like a lifestyle form. So aerial is like a performing arts form and yoga is a form of lifestyle. So that's how I differentiate both these forms, and how I feel both these forms complement each other. And I also personally feel that yoga is like a foundation to many other forms. Even if you're a sports person, you should have a base in yoga because it teaches you how to ground yourself. And to live in the moment.
And balance.
Yes, and create a balance.
True.
So Niyoshi, getting back to the question, you started saying you didn't know much about meditation and philosophy when you started yoga practice in Mysore. How did you incorporate them along the way, and what similarities have you find between all three forms, or like your higher being and then doing yoga? Like you said, it's all about staying in the present. That's what meditation also teaches you.
Yes. So I don't think this just applies to yoga. I believe this applies to aerial arts as well. It's just this sense of disconnection, this disconnection with your surroundings, and also that sense of disconnection with the people around you. For example, when I was into sports, like when I used to play basketball, I was extremely competitive. I used to compare my performance with others. But in case of yoga and aerial arts, I was only competing with myself. I used to listen to my body, I used to listen to my practice, I used to give myself the time to explore, to mess up, to fail, to fall, so that has been much of a game changer for me, and yoga gave me that realization. So in terms of philosophy, I haven't dwelled that deep into the topic of philosophy as yet, even personally, even now. Because that's something which I definitely want to explore. Just that at this point, my mind is in so many directions that I'm not able to, bring myself there as yet. But in case of meditation, that's something which I do every single day, giving myself the time to just reflect back, maybe at night, maybe in the morning after waking up, and just going back, taking a few steps back, and then just stopping and just breathing there. So that's been something which has been a part of me.
How your day spans out, like, what a day looks like in Niyoshi, and how do you start and
what a day looks like. Okay. So I'm not the person of schedules at all. Every single day has to be different from the other, because I have never been a scheduled person. I've never been a morning person as well. I know this is the first time you might have seen a yogi saying this to you.
But that's so cool, because I can never get myself to get up before.
We can relate to
10 o'clock. Even though that is the ideal cycle you should be following, the 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. sleep cycle. That is like the ideal time, because of certain hormones getting released only during those hours, and if you miss that time, and then
disrupting the circadian rhythm.
The circadian rhythm, exactly. So that is ideally the cycle which should be followed. But for me personally, I have mornings have never been that energetic for me. I don't know why. And I believe that every person is different. Every person is made differently. So you should always follow what your body is telling you to do. You should not push yourself to do something where you feel that that sense of demotivation should not occur again and again. If you're motivated at another hour of the day, then probably give that time. Probably you're psychologically meant to give that time to your fitness. So you should always focus on that, rather than just because my mom is saying 6 baje utke exercise karna hai, nahi to 7 baje utke padhna hai, then no, that's not going to work. Even while studying, even while I was like during college and school, even that time my study schedules used to be very erratic. Sometimes I used to wake up just before my exams and open my books to start study, or sometimes it used to be like in the night time, something around at 10 a.m. I used to open my books, because probably that time I was mentally feeling, more, maybe I work better under pressure, and I'm sure that's the case with most people. With many people, I would say. Sometimes it used to be during the afternoon hours where everyone is, napping. So so you should always follow what's, in your mind, what's in your heart, and when you feel is the right time for you to, give it to a particular task.
So what do you get up at your own schedule, and then how do you follow your day?
So I usually have 1 or 2 sessions taking place in case of teaching, either one yoga class or one aerial class, or both in the day.
In the morning,
in the morning, in the evening, it's all like a mixed schedule. And then during the afternoon hours, I try to give that time to my self-practice. Either it's yoga, or it is aerial arts, or it is pole. That's something which is very recently introduced in my schedule. Or it's weight training. So I try to create a balance between all these forms. So I give 2 days in the week to my yoga practice, 2 days in the week to my aerial arts practice, 2 days in the week to my pole practice, and 2 days in the week to my strength training practice. Sometimes it overlaps as well. So and I decide the pace of the exercise and the exercises or the flows, the yoga dynamic flows which I'm doing, based on what the next part of the day is. Like whether, if for example, so teaching an aerial art session is comparatively more draining for the teacher, because you have to constantly demonstrate, teach, assist. So that takes a little more physical energy compared to teaching a yoga session, which is more targeted towards your instructions. So whenever I have an aerial art session planned, I make sure that the workout which I've planned for myself is comparatively less draining, because I don't believe in overdoing it. And I listen to the limit of my body. So practicing even like 7 or 8 or like 9 hours in the week, that is also quite a bit for a common person. But because I'm in the industry, because I'm so driven, and because I know the limit of my body, that's why I'm able to give that much time in the week. So then, something like that.
So you talked about pole and all. So, do you want to describe it more, like, to our viewers, what kind of pole means? Like, generally people associate it with a very, like, pole dancing or something. So any myth you want to debunk about it or something?
Yeah, pole dance, it's always been a taboo. It's been an extremely major one, and I'm here to break all the taboos, guys. All of these taboos to do with the fitness and the artistic industry. So pole dance as a form, it has been sexualized a lot, because naturally it has been performed for seductive reasons as well. But all I want to say is that the intention behind the form is always decided by the artist and not the audience. And that is not something which everyone is well aware of. So my intention behind the practice of pole is self-expression, strength, artistry, dynamics, and a lot of creativity. But some people might perceive it to be in the wrong sense, because of the clothing which you have to wear in pole, and that's not something out of choice. That's the uniform, for example. For example, that's the uniform, because most people don't know this. People feel that people wear small clothes while doing pole dance. It's just because for seductive reasons, but the reason behind is that you don't get grip on the pole if you wear clothes, right? So you need the grip. You need direct skin contact to be able to manage the grip on the pole. That is the idea behind it. And the only thing which I don't prefer, like which I feel it's incorrect for people to believe, is that pole dance, as I said, it is sexualized. Sometimes even forms such as maybe jazz, contemporary, or even sometimes aerial arts, even these forms sometimes can be performed for seductive reasons. But when we look at an aerial arts performance and we look at a pole performance, our sight only goes towards pole, that this is like that, and aerial arts is clean, because even kids do it.
No, there's a lot of stereotypes on pole dancing, and even if it is meant for seductive purposes, I don't see the harm, because that person is not doing it for any salacious reasons. So, and it's it's art form, like same with belly dancing.
Exactly.
And it's more on the eye of the viewer, and how it mostly entertainment or media is the one that covers it in that form, but that is not exactly how it started or what it's meant for, right?
Yeah, that's not exactly. So it started with the purpose of circus itself, pole dancing in general, and then later on it was in the West, the intention was not exactly changed. It was started being used as a form of seduction as well. But then later on, now what I feel is, as I said, the intention behind the form is decided by the artist and not the audience. Right now, it's people need to widen their thinking and look at it as a form of art and expression and grace, rather than looking at it as a form of seduction and sexuality. Just like any other form, as you said, belly dancing, even that as a form can be performed for dual reasons. But it should be looked as any other dance form, just something which you're doing for yourself, something as a form which is making you admire yourself, admire your body, irrespective of all your insecurities. You're doing something which is so dynamic, so thrilling, so acrobatic, something which takes you in the world of self-admiration. And I feel in case of women, because women in day-to-day lives, I believe they are objectified a lot for the smallest bits of things. For example, किसी dinner के लिए जाते हैं हम family के साथ, इतनी मोटी हो गई है, इतनी पतली हो गई है. That is a form of greeting women as well, So you're constantly under that self-doubt, and for a very long time, I feel even now that I self-doubt myself, that I personally have extremely frizzed out and dry. I sit and straighten my hair almost after every wash, because I still have that thing that, oh my god, my hair is looking so frizzy, and I'm not feeling confident in my own skin, and I have to do all the things to make myself feel comfortable of my body. And probably this kind of a thinking is coming from the outside world. It's not the thinking you were born with. When I was small, I didn't care about how I looked, but as I grew older, as people started commenting on my appearance, that she's so tall, I'm taller than the average set of women. She's so tall, ladke jaisi, ladka kaise milega? That is the biggest thing, ladka kaise milega? So you're constantly under self-doubt and you want to keep doing better. So when you look at aerial and pole, these are the forms which you want to keep coming back to, because you learn how to admire yourself and your bodies the way it is.
So plus the fitness also increases a lot. You need a lot of fitness in doing pole dancing.
Body strength.
Talk about that.
Yeah, you build it around. You build it
even in belly dancing, it reduces your belly fat to a great extent.
100%, and it requires so much core and so much stability and so much.
No one talks about all those things when talking about these dance forms.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody mentions about all of those things, So so for me, pole dancing and aerial arts are a form of self-expression, something which has made me feel very confident about myself. And even while I speak about it, it makes me realize that this is something which is made for me, because as I told you, I've had stage fright during my growing years, and ever since I delved into the aerial arts, the yoga, the pole dance industry, I realized that I have so much to talk about, so much to share with the world, despite of it being such a big taboo for most people. So that brought out a very confident side in me, which I never knew that I had.
That's so much self-awareness at such a young age.
You discovered yourself with aerial arts.
That's so great. What do you get a lot of stigma or a lot of asking, yoga to pole, what is this? Are you a sellout? What do you have answers for? If someone asks you that question, are you taking the form of yoga, and are you is it not, you're not supposed to mix yoga with pole dancing and also? What answers would you give to such questions?
I've actually experienced this a lot in the yoga industry. No? The ones especially into yoga, I shouldn't be saying this, but not that they're wrong by any means. That yoga is an extremely holistic form of its own. And I have many times heard that you should just focus on one thing and get deeper into it and excel in that, and and if you're into yoga, you don't need anything else.
It's majorly accepted by the society, like the traditional yoga.
Exactly, the traditional yoga, it's majorly accepted. You don't need anything else. This is all you should be doing. And for me, it's just like, it's up to me, guys. It's up to me. It's up to my interest. If I've always been the kind of person who likes to explore different forms, I even teach this to my students as well, because in several gyms and fitness centers, I've come across that they all want to market their own place. So they be like, itna jo kar rahe ho, utna kafi. Aap kali roz hamare paas aao, udhar pahunch jaoge, aapko jidhar pahunchna hai. But in my case, it's a little different. I always tell my students to explore different things, such as calisthenics, yoga, or anything of their liking. I also encourage people to get into dancing as well, because the amount of grace dancers bring into aerial arts, I don't think I could ever match that. Like, some of my students are already Kathak and Bharatanatyam dancers. The amount of grace and the elegance they can bring to their aerial flows, it's just so magical. So I feel all these forms just complement each other.
Correct.
And you should always listen to your heart.
Some fighting words of our guests, and something to take by for us as well. So, as someone who has yoga and philosophy and meditation, and you're into this art form, what are your food habits? Do you have any indulgence, or how do you curb it, or what kind of food do you have during?
So I'm a pure vegetarian. And a limitation in my diet is proteins, naturally, because vegetarians, we have very limited options.
Yeah.
But I make sure that I eat pulses every single day, whether it's in the form of chana, dal, moong, then rajma, then beans and soybeans. These things I definitely rely on. Even though I'm not able to keep like a proper track, which I don't even believe is required for just to have a maintaining kind of say. I'm not the right person because I'm not a nutritionist. But for me, that requirement of, actively following a certain sets of things, that has not yet arisen, because I feel my body is able to comply and work with the fitness regime which I have set with myself on the current dietary plan. But if I have certain goals in mind in case of strength training, weightlifting, then probably I would have to go to a nutritionist, consult, and probably follow a strict pattern, a strict diet. And so right now I incorporate pulses every single day in my eating habits, and apart from that, curd is a superfood. After every meal I have curd. It's the best probiotic, and I feel it's rich in proteins as well. I avoid milk and other dairy products. The simple reason is taste. I don't like it, that's why. I'm not even the biggest fan of paneer for some reason. I feel my gut just cannot take in a lot of it because I start feeling very nauseous. But I love curd. Curd is something which I turn to after every single meal. And I'm a sweet tooth, so there is a sweet dish after every meal, and not necessarily in case of chocolates and laddus. Sweet things can also be healthy, nutritious. So in case of sweet, I can have dates. Recently my cook, she made a very yummy dates ke saath, like she mixed flax seeds and nuts, and she made this laddu out of it, and after every meal I'm having that laddu. I was like, wow, this is satisfying my cravings also, and it is very good for my health also. And at this stage, whenever I go out for Diwali or family gatherings, get-togethers, I have no control. I eat. I open.
I was just going to get into that. What are your cheat days look like, and what do you consume?
Cheat days, it's mainly when I go out, buffets, that Gujarati thinking कि plate में overfill करके ज़्यादा ठूसेंगे, that thing is always there, that's been there. If it's a buffet, I have to basulo fire. I have to eat everything, but guys, don't take this tip, okay? Not the best person.
No, I think sometimes even if I consume air, I just how did I add calories? But
and then for me, the next day is a complete detox watermelon day.
Oh,
I call that the watermelon day.
Oh,
to balance it
a lot of watermelon.
Nice.
So we would like to have taste the protein bars which is made by Healthy Naris, and we would like your review on that.
I would love to. I'm already seeing it, and it's like I'm going to complete both the bowls together.
Oh, nice.
I'll definitely try.
Yeah.
Okay. Very nice. I love the texture and how chewy and nice it is. It's not even like sticking to my teeth, so that has always been a very big hindrance in case of protein bars.
Actually.
And I love the teeth.
Sweetened by dates, so mildly sweetened, not much.
It's extremely good. I'm sure this is no sugar, right?
Only dates.
No sugar, only dates. Wow, it's perfect. It's exactly what I have after my meal. So I'm probably going to replace the laddus made at home with this.
Oh, great.
That's so great.
We have a first customer. So, what tips do you want to give people who fear aerial yoga, or, they want to overcome that kind of fear and want to start?
The best tip for this is, बस सांस लेते रहो. Gonna get ZNMD, closest to my heart, because that movie is everything. And this form is also like, So what happens as a teacher, what I've come across in case of beginners, the thing is, if they don't breathe while doing the forms, their body becomes very tight. So, you know, they become very tight even after getting into the posture. They don't know what's happening. They don't listen to me after they've stopped breathing, you know. It's more like, you know, I'm at a shock. I'm in that state of shock that, oh my God, what now? How do I come out? I'm just completely entangled now. How am I going to remove myself? And, you know, that kind of a thing. So your breath is a very important part, and this applies to yoga as well. And this, in fact, the foundations of yoga are, you know, connected to your breathing, and also the movement, like, so you move with your breath, and it's very similar to aerial. So this is another similarity between both the forms. Your movement has to be, even in case of aerial, while you're transitioning from one pose to the next one to the next one, or even when you're dropping, you have to breathe, you have to keep breathing. Only that's what's making your mind prepared to take in more information, take in and do more, you know. So, and also one more thing, what happens while you're breathing, if that person becomes very tight, even as a teacher, they don't allow me to assist them. They're so tight that I can't even move their hands and legs to help them come out of the posture. So for beginners, I think this is a very important part, your breath.
Just breathe.
Just breathe. Then you're good to go, guys. You're 80, you're good to go if you're breathing.
So, as you said, what advice do you have for people who wanted to get into mainstream fields and how to deal with the pressure and competitiveness of that field?
I would firstly say explore all the different things which you're interested in, and then decide which path you want to follow, and don't just follow the path because a person from your circle or your surroundings has been doing that. First, just step your foot into all the directions and then make your call that this is my calling, this is something. Even if it's finance, yes, I have a good knack of stock markets, that's something which interests me, it makes me, you know, it thrills me, so I'm getting into it. So before you make that decision, just explore everything, and then after that, naturally, once you've explored everything, that sense of fear goes away, you know, that you will fail, because you are so sure of your decision after exploring that ये मैंने सोच के ये decision लिया है, तो probably it is the right call, even though I have not experienced it. Very easy for me to say then do, but still just explore everything and then decide your path, and then after that let it just flow the way it is going. And one more thing, just make small targets instead of, like, you know, setting the bigger picture that even if you have monetary goals in your mind, don't just directly think कि हाँ मुझे Mercedes लेनी है सीधा, नहीं तो मुझे penthouse लेना है New York में. So then don't just directly set that as your target. Set smaller goals first कि, you know, आज मुझे I want to accomplish this today, then I want to accomplish this 1 week down the line. I want my boss to appreciate me on this topic which I've been working on, so I'm going to do even better. You know, so maybe set smaller goals and then your path will just follow, because so this is something which yoga has taught me. It's to live in the present. You know, if you start just looking at the bigger picture, then probably, you know, so personally, in case of my asana practice, I've been wanting to do handstands since a very long time. Like unsupported handstands, which requires comparatively a lot more core strength, stability, balance, and arm work, of course. So I went very step by step and minimalistically with it. So initially I started taking the support of the wall, and now I'm practicing it unsupported. I'm taking tiny steps. I'm not just directly putting my hands down and kicking my legs up and then, you know, it's not something like that. I'm taking small steps. I'm trying to reach small goals. So maybe I should be able to hold into a normal downward facing dog for like 10 minutes, you know, something like smaller goals first.
So just enjoy the process rather than focusing on the outcome.
Exactly. Enjoy the process, and then once you reach the outcome, that feeling is going to stay with you forever, compared to you getting that thing the next day itself, you know. Then you're not respecting the journey. It's only because of the journey you are respecting the end goal. It's that.
So, you know, what are the 3 yoga poses you would like to suggest beginners to start with, you know, to our viewers or something?
3 yoga poses, I would say, so compared to 3, I would say Surya Namaskars. That's been like a super for me. Even now, at this point, I believe that's one of my most favorite parts about the asana practice, which is Surya Namaskars, because it is so holistic. It targets almost all the muscles. It creates so many extensions. It also focuses on your breath work, and it also helps with your cardiovascular system. It also helps you increase your heart rate, which is so that's why I find it to be extremely holistic as a practice, the Surya Namaskar. If you start practicing that every single day, you naturally start growing from there.
Okay.
Or maybe set the target of maybe doing 5 Surya Namaskars today, then this in 1 week, then maybe doing 10 the other, then the next week 20 the next
Increase
week,
the reps,
and then
yeah.
keep increasing the reps,
increasing.
and then eventually you reach 108 without taking breaks.
So by 108, that is
Yeah,
what I never
actually.
wanted to know.
Yeah.
Surya.
So apart from Surya Namaskars, which like yoga poses we should focus on, like Surya Namaskars we can start with in the day, like then what should be following after that?
Surya Namaskars, yeah, definitely something you can start your day with. And after that, I would suggest you inculcate in terms, just in case of your fitness practice, not in case of meditation. And for that, definitely you can take support of guided meditations, etc. Maybe before sleeping or at a time where you feel you're at rest. That's the time when you should focus on your mind, or maybe start with therapy if that's something which you feel you need, and do not hesitate on that. And in case of your physical movement and exercise, Surya Namaskar is a good way to start your day with, and because it helps you give that starter, that morning wake up, that morning
actually.
mobility which you need to go ahead with your day with. And then maybe instead of a day, maybe divide it across a week. Maybe that 2 days I'm going to give to strength training, 2 days to, Pilates, maybe focusing on your core work. Then maybe 2 days to something which extends your muscles, or something to do with a deeper, maybe a back bending yoga practice or a hip opening yoga practice, something which focuses on your spine and your hips.
Okay.
Especially if you're having a desk job, because you're sitting in one place for so
Sitting,
long,
yeah,
your
very
posture
sedentary.
and hips, everything goes for a toss. So maybe 2 days to that. That's my personal suggestion, because that's what I have been doing. That's what's helped me the most. Rather than doing everything little every day, I would suggest give 1 day entirely to this, 1 day entirely to this,
Yes,
and
okay.
divide it across your schedule. Yeah.
Nice.
That's
Something
such
like
a
that.
balance
Yeah.
to take. Okay, so what advice do you have for especially the youth of today that have been so exposed to social media and body dysmorphia? Everybody wants to look a certain way, and the number of surgical enhancements are like just growing, and people are just putting glutamine without knowing the long-term effects. So what advice do you have for them?
Even on jumping, right?
Oh yeah, that is.
So, what I personally believe in this aspect is that it's always like your personal choice, that which, what makes you feel confident at the end of the day, irrespective of what the world thinks of you. So, if you feel you need implants, you need a nose job, if you feel like that's something which is going to make you feel confident in the end, then I would suggest you go for it. You don't, I'm not going to be impractical and be like, just accept your body the way it is. Just be happy with the way you are. You're doing perfectly fine. No, I'm not going to say that, because I know I have been in that spot. I've always had acne problems since the past, I think 12, 13 years now, ever since I was small. And honestly speaking, if I wouldn't have addressed that, I don't think I would have been able to bring out my most confident side out. So I went to a dermatologist, and that was something, it wasn't anything to do with what people are commenting on me. I used to feel ugly personally. I used to not like how my skin looked. And after working on that, after changing my diet, after changing my lifestyle, after drinking a certain amount of water, after going to the dermat and doing certain treatments, like minimalistic treatments, that's something which made me feel like, yeah, I love myself, so I'm working on myself, and I'm making myself feel better every single day that way. So if you feel that, don't get, so all I have to say is that don't be like, इसने किया है तो मैं भी कर लेता हूँ उसकी वजह से, क्योंकि इसने, so don't get influenced by the opposite. Don't get influenced by an other person doing it. Get influenced by yourself. So if you feel that that's something which is going to make you feel happier, make you feel confident in the long term, maybe sit with that idea for a couple of months and then make that decision for yourself. But I wouldn't say that, don't address your problems at all. Even the ones probably who are experiencing obesity, it's growing so much in today's times, even in case of the youngsters, based on the food options and, the amount of stress everyone goes through. Now, food is a form of entertainment, it is not just, what it was. It's not just that you need food to live. It's not just that anymore. It's entertainment now.
No, especially in Indian culture, food is very deep rooted with everything.
100%. Yeah, so because of all of those things, the rates of obesity is also increasing because of a lot of study pressure, stress, and so many factors, hereditary, genetics, So if you feel personally that some people, I know some of the people in my circle, even though they are experiencing obesity, that some of them are extremely confident in their own skin. They are able to do everything. They are okay, they've accepted their bodies, they've accepted with the way. So they are the ones who don't, but the ones who are extremely affected by the whole idea, who question themselves every single day, looking in front of the mirror, oh my god, how ugly am I looking, and I cannot live this way. This is making me feel so pathetic. I cannot go for parties. I can't go for outings. I can't socialize because of the judgment. Then probably you start working on yourself that time. That's the time when you stop. मतलब खुद पे दया खाना बंद करो और खुद से प्यार करना सीखो.
When you feel sympathetic for yourself, you cannot work.
Exactly. So stop the sympathy, start working on yourself if that's something you wanted to be addressed. Okay, and start actively working on it. And and in many cases what happens is that if sometimes it's not in your control, I've had acne for like 13 years of my life. So even sometimes I used to change all my dietary things and I used to take very big steps. So sometimes it's not in your control, and that's the time tabhi thoda acceptance ka factor strike hona chahiye that do I want to live a life like this just because of because of this one small thing? I'm not going to go out there, I'm not going to meet people. No, that's not me. I want to meet people, so I am going to make it happen irrespective. Okay, it's something like that.
Either work on yourself or accept this.
Either work on yourself or accept it, but stop sympathizing with yourself is what I want to say.
So any advice you want to give overall generally, like to somebody who wants to start yoga or some other form, and they're just sitting and watching this at home and they don't feel motivated enough?
Any quote.
So this advice maybe goes to a lot of women also, a lot of youngsters. So I would just say that maybe just sign up at a gym without any expectations. Even if you feel unmotivated, just pay up, okay? And then just go one day and see how it's making you feel after that. Probably if you, for example, gone for something like strength training, okay? And that is something which bores you, it didn't interest you that much. And that wasn't something which you felt you want to start with. So then probably maybe try yoga. Maybe do a couple of sessions of yoga, but sign up at a place so that you have the motivation कि हाँ इधर पैसा दिया तो अभी जाना ही पड़ेगा. नहीं तो YouTube पे तो सब कुछ ही अवेलेबल है. सभी कुछ कर सकते हैं खुद, सर्टिफाई भी हो सकता है, खुद से भी कर सकते हैं, लेकिन नहीं, we will just pay up somewhere, sign up and just take a step there. And if that's a form, just try for a week. If that's a form which doesn't make you feel nice about yourself, if you don't get the kick with that form, then you don't feel like showing up again. So then don't renew at that same place again. Maybe try another form after that. And sometimes what happens, even after you've explored certain forms, you're very happy with this set routine which you formed, but still I would suggest continue exploring. Maybe there's something better for you. Maybe there's something which makes you feel even happier. So and consistency is the key. So I wouldn't say, so in my case, I've been very consistent with my yoga practice personally, despite of all the additions which I have put, like such as aerial arts, pole, strength training. I've still been extremely consistent with my yoga practice. So because I know that that's eventually, going to help me grow so much. So consistency is also required, but that is after you've explored. In my case, I've explored sports, I've explored multiple things, but now I know that this is my base form. This is always going to stick with me. I'm going to keep showing up to this, for this every single day. It's helping me. It's helping me with my mental health. And even if I keep exploring, it's fine if this is still there with me.
This is your core.
Yeah, it's something like that.
So what keeps you motivated? Like there are days when you feel depressed and low and you don't want to do anything, like even areas, nothing. So what do you do to keep yourself motivated, or what kicks you like?
What I do, I take a break that day because that happens so rarely. So if it's happening this rarely, I know that probably this is the day when I should be taking rest, when I should be. So during my during my menstrual cycles, the first 3 days I don't, I feel very, even though I can do little movement, I can do basic things. Sometimes I can do a gentle yoga practice, but I feel that no, today I just want to sit and I'm just going to sit. That's it. That's the idea. If my mind is not feeling motivated that day, I'm not going to push because I feel like I'm working on a certain set because I'm in this industry. This doesn't apply to the normal people who are, who are not in the profession. Because I'm in this profession and because, everybody needs a break, from what you're doing, and maybe accept that. If you're psychologically feeling कि हाँ आज break लेना है, then accept it. ठीक है, आज break day है तो आज छुट्टी ले लेंगे.
So actually that's a very good segue for menstrual cycle for women.
Yeah.
Like, how does yoga help pre and post? Like I have severe lower back pain and bloating and all of that. And how does yoga help with that?
So in case of my personal experiences, yoga has helped me. So for example, in case if I want to do like a gentle practice, I don't do very extensive poses. Firstly, I don't get into inversions or back bends. I do like a gentle hip opening focus, something maybe for the pelvic floor muscles. I do something of that sort, which helps me reduce my cramps. It helps me regulate my flow, and it makes me feel distracted. तो कभी क्या होता है ना, इतने cramps होते हैं that you want your mind also to feel a little distracted कि थोड़ा क्रैम्प से दिमाग हटके कहीं और चला गया. So it helps me disconnect with my pain and focus on my mind and my breath. I lose the touch, the connect with my pain. Many times I'm not saying that this is a very natural process that happens to many people. कभी-कभी mental state की वजह से, psychology की वजह से भी cramps बढ़ जाता है sometimes. So probably you want to keep yourself slightly distracted. Some people maybe turn on the TV. Some people, maybe go for walks. Some people maybe, sit with friends. Maybe sometimes that helps you with your cramps sometimes because you're not actively, your mind is not focusing there. But if you're just sitting, oh my god, my stomach is paining, I'm not going to move all day, then probably the cramps will stay with you also for slightly longer.
Yeah,
but this is subjective.
Then
definitely.
yoga poses like to relieve that kind of cramps or that kind of pain menstrual cycle.
To relieve, I'm not very sure. This can work for some people, doesn't work for some people. But in general, just hip opening, such as gentle hip opening poses like butterfly baddha konasana, then like legs up the wall, you lie down, something like that. Then maybe setu bandhasan, which is a bridge. These types of poses. Avoid any back bends, intensive forward folds. You can do like gentler forward folds and, just go ahead with your day. Maybe, go for a small walk, if that is something which makes it has helped me a couple of times, might not work for others. Sometimes I go for some short walks just to feel refreshed, get some air, So, yeah.
So you think yoga can help in muscle growth, which generally people think only gym can do it or only weightlifting can do it. So what is your take on that?
110%. Yoga is one of the most holistic forms which I've come across, and I'm so amazed every single day with regards to the amount of stability, strength, balance, flexibility, and all of these aspects getting involved with just one practice. So yes, 100% yoga is very strong. In case of yoga, there are concentric contractions, isometric contractions, and eccentric contractions. So all the three contractions are involved, which depends asana to asana. And in case of yoga, what happens, because you're doing like a flow, that depends on how the teacher also designs the practice actually. Some people just specialize on going yin, which is a very slow paced, which is a very restorative practice, yin yoga. The practice which I practice myself most often and teach my students is Hatha Vinyasa and Ashtanga Vinyasa. They are comparatively stronger practices in case of building strength, flexibility, and very dynamic, because it combines a lot of poses and sequences together, and you make a big flow out of it, and you perform, you practice that in the session. So what happens is that when you transition from one pose to the next one, it requires a sense of control, which requires a lot of balance, and for that you need all your muscles to get engaged. Each and every part of your body is engaged if you're trying to transition from one pose to the next one. So all the parts of your body are aware, are awake, and are completely into the practice. Only then will you be able to complete the flow. Otherwise you will keep falling apart, you will keep losing your balance. So a lot of control is required in that aspect. So the aspect of strength comes in where you're supposed to hold into that one position for such a long duration of time. So just imagine, in case of gym and other fitness forms, that is also developing a lot of muscle and strength. We do like repetitions in case of reps, like you inhale, lift, exhale, bend. Okay, something like that. But in case of yoga, you're just holding into that one particular pose for a longer duration of time and targeting all of the same muscles. You know, so it's just like a different way of building strength. It's a very different style of practice. Yeah.
Great.
Any of the myths that you want to burst about yoga and aerial yoga, both?
So one of the biggest misconceptions which I've come across, and this is like, it just goes like over my brain, that what, guys, it's that these forms are only been done by women. They're only been practiced by women. That is one of the major misconceptions. So whenever somebody says like that to me, especially in case of aerial arts, you know, when somebody's doing the ring and this is so girly, this is so feminine, if I do this I'll look, you know, I'll look like a girl, and you know, all of that, I was like, I have no words for you, man. You are just depriving. It's like I don't even feel like changing their opinion on this. It's like, okay, you continue with your opinion. You're just depriving yourself of something so beautiful in your life, which could be, you know, just because your mental stigma, just because of that stereotypical thinking, you're not exploring and stepping your foot into areas where, you know, which is going to make you feel so wonderful about yourself. You know, so that is what, you know, and a lot of men bring this, especially this comes from a lot of men. So I'm just like, theek hai, do what you think you feel is masculine, and then we will say that, and then yeah. So that, and the second thing which I've come across is yoga and aerial arts only focuses on flexibility, and yeah, as you said, no strength aspect involved, which is absolutely incorrect. All I have to say is just come for one Ashtanga session of mine, and then we'll see what you have to say. So, you know,
the records.
Yeah. And yeah, the third misconception is that it is performed, it's a practice which is done only by yoga, especially it's only done by senior citizens, or it's a practice which is very meditative. You know, it is not there's nothing else involved. It's very easy and meditative. Yeah, many people have told me so easy, yoga karti hai, so easy, main to sab kar sakta hu. I was like, that's not the idea. Tum kitna kar sakte ho, that is not the idea behind yoga. There are a lot of other reasons why you should be doing that. And if you think it's easy, then okay, continue thinking that way. Don't do it.
I'll give you your space.
Yeah, I'll give you your space. Do what you think is difficult. I'm not going to try to change that.
Yeah. So, you know, who do you idolize in yoga? So generally people idolize Hansaji and other people. So, you know, who is your idol? Whom do you look up to, like, in yoga?
So in my case, I personally don't have one particular idol. In case of aerial arts, it's one of my teachers. His name is Oak. He's based in Thailand. I did my first silk certification with him. And I just love how he just flows in the air so effortlessly, and the amount of dynamics he involves in his practice, that is something which has always amazed me. Like, you know, like how effortless can this practice get? Because even if I attempt to do that, I know how much I'm struggling and I know how much time it's going to take me to reach that level. But, you know, he's really set the bar so high that, you know, I want to keep showing up. That's because of somebody like him whose practice I idolize so much in case of aerial arts. But in case of yoga, I don't have one specific idol, because I know that there are so many yoga practitioners who aren't even teachers and have worked so strongly on their lives that, you know, it just makes me feel how magical and holistic this form in general is. You know, it's not that one particular person in yoga. In case of yoga, I feel I'm my own idol. Like, I have to keep getting better at what I'm doing. I never compare my performance with anybody else, and everybody's at a different age and stage and at a different practice level in case of yoga, you know.
So, do you follow any fitness app or something, or you want to like name some, like want to attribute something to like someone who have helped you achieve what you achieved today?
I think the achievement in the entrepreneurial aspect, I think that goes to my mother undoubtedly, because of the amount of positivity which she has given me. My mother and my brother as well, you know, in his silent ways, he's really helped me a lot with the technical aspects, and my mother has really helped me with, staying strong in the process and not giving up. This is only in case of the entrepreneurial journey. So, staying strong and being consistent with what you're doing and not losing hope when, things are not going your way. Just accept that it's not going your way and maybe show up again and maybe try something different this time. Maybe don't stick to your that ideology ki haan meko yahi karna hai. Even if that's not working, don't continue to, if you know that it's not working, set a time frame in your mind ki ye cheez nahi chal raha hai, so you have to bring a pause to it, how much ever attached you are towards the idea.
Correct.
So she's helped me bring that kind of an approach in my thinking, and also staying calm. Sometimes I do tend to get hyper, sometimes I do tend to get anxious that am I going the right way, am I doing the right thing? And she tells me you don't always have to do the right thing. Sometimes you learn from your mistakes and you grow,
True.
So I believe that's been a very big of a game changer for me. I wouldn't have been able to do anything without them.
That would be a very good advice to the youngsters.
Yeah.
So for the last segment, we're going to do a fun rapid fire with you.
I would love to. Let's go.
What's your favorite yoga pose? Or aerial yoga?
In case of yoga, I'm going to say Surya Namaskars. That's always going to be my number one, because I haven't ever come across something as holistic as that in case of movement. And also disconnection. It's also a form kind of meditation for me, doing Surya Namaskars. And also the mental strength which requires ki repetitively same cheez baar karne se, still you're not getting bored, keeping your mind active. That. I think Surya Namaskars.
Your go-to meal before a workout?
Sattu. Sattu powder. I have
That's
that.
very good for digestion.
Yeah, that's very good for, and it's high on proteins also for vegetarian
Actually,
people.
Okay, best advice you've ever received?
You should never have a backup. So that you keep showing up to that one thing again and again, even if you fail. You should never have a backup.
So it recently happened to me, like when my job went, I think I put 110% focus because income stopped from there, right? So you have to make this work somehow. So
You have to make this work. Exactly. Otherwise, you end up giving up so quickly. हाँ ये नहीं है तो ये है ना. I have to give 100% to this.
Like this is, I can see the depreciation happening. So this is what I have to do. Like jump 10 hoops.
Yeah,
totally
100%.
agree.
And I always went with that motto. That's why I've been so sustained to this. It wasn't easy for me to build this up.
I can
It
imagine.
took a lot of time for me to build this with no background, no experience, nobody in the family doing this, nobody to actively help me or advise me. It's not. So it's just like you should never have a backup. That's just gonna make you stop.
Doing that.
Do something different, but don't leave it.
That's very true. Favorite travel destination?
Any beachy locations, I would say. Anything seaside. I believe that's the best way to have like a vacation, a proper vacation at peace, just listening to the waves of the ocean and just me and my tanhai.
Netflix and chill, or like go out with friends?
Go out with friends. For sure. Complete socialite,
So
guys.
your favorite spots, like if you want to like hit the pub or you want to go somewhere nice to eat or something like that?
So I don't drink. So I would say maybe calling everyone over to my house. I think that's the best feeling. That's my
Mama's
favorite.
Java.
Yeah. Calling everyone over, definitely.
Okay. So we have a fun segment for our viewers. Since we have Niyoshi here, she's going to teach us a few poses that maybe beginners or intermediate level can do at home easily. So Niyoshi, can you guide us through that?
Yeah.
Surya Namaskars, as I addressed this earlier. And second thing is maybe incorporate some pranayamas in your daily practice, because sometimes what happens is that your mind tends to be in so many directions the entire day, and if the asana practice is not helping you, you're still mentally occupied and continuously your mind is working, calculations, people, plans, everything going on. So maybe do pranayamas and try to count your breath as you breathe. Count your breath and include counting and longer breaths, instead of shorter, fast-paced. That makes you anxious. Something longer, it will help you calm your nervous system down. Definitely.
Thank you so much for
coming.
Thank you so much. It was such an honor to be here, and all the best for
Thank
Healthy
you.
Naris.
Same with you.
I'm excited to be your customer now.
I'm gonna hit the Malad session when it starts in Malad. That's
100%.
near to my place.
100%. You have to. Most welcome.
Maybe I might start aerial yoga after I build some strength.
Even if I get scared, which
Don't
I
need
am.
that. Just start. Just show up and you're there.
So don't forget to like our channel, like our videos, and share it to other fitness enthusiasts, young professionals who are, who beginners who want to actually follow fitness regime, but they don't know where to start from. How do they work out? Do they go to gym? Do they do home workouts? So, please be tuned with us. Subscribe to our channel, Healthy Naris, on YouTube and Instagram. We have the same name. So, stay tuned. Happy exploring and happy eating. Thank you.